Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Irene, and this is Mahaley, my trainee at Hillside Wellness Center. She works with postpartum prenatal care, but she really specializes working with parents. And so we wanted to give you parents 7 ways on how to cope, especially during the coronavirus, but we didn't want to connect it or associate it specifically with the coronavirus because this is something that you can just generally do, in your everyday life, whether or not we're going through a pandemic. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Mahaley, you had mentioned, so reach out and ask for help. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think it's so important, even if you're not particularly struggling, to have a community around you, whether that's your family, your partner, friends, other mom friends, support group, whatever that is. I think it's really important to have a community around you and have people around you that are going through similar things as you, and that you can sort of open up when things, do get kind of challenging during parenthood.
Mhm.
So it's really important if you are struggling to reach out to those people and ask for help.
So you're not alone. Hmm.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
important.
very, very important. Yes. Saying no.
hmm Saying no is really, I think, really important. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to do, and something that is hard for a lot of people to learn. I know for
Mhm.
myself, that was definitely the case. And it took a really long time to get there. But I think that it's really important in order to put yourself first, to put your needs first, that you have to be able to say no to things that you don't have time for, that you maybe don't
Mhm.
particularly want to do. And I think it's a really important lesson as well in parenthood, just to help you be able to prioritize your time, because you're going to have so much less free time than you did before. And I think it's really important to create boundaries for yourself and say no to things that you don't have time for.
Mhm, mhm. And maybe just a little bit to add, you don't have to just necessarily say no. You could also say no, thank you. You could also say, I thought about it. I don't think it's going to work out today. You're also, you could say it in many different ways without you having to feel guilty afterwards that you're letting people down.
Absolutely. Or
Hmm.
for myself, sometimes I don't want to say no, but I just don't have time in that moment. So I'll say I would really love to do this or be a part of this, but is there a way that we could do this in a couple of weeks, or I have
Hmm.
more time at the end of the month. So
There we go.
there's
Hmm.
always a middle ground, if it's something that you really want to do, but just can't make the time for it at that moment.
Okay, thank you. Time for yourself. How do we do that?
That is, I think that's such a work in progress for so many parents that I know out there. But I have learned the hard way, and so many of the moms that I work with have also learned the hard way, that if you don't make time for yourself, it's so easy to not do. It's so easy to go through the week, and come Sunday night, you realize you have not done one thing for yourself that you wanted to do. But there's a huge cost, to that. And the cost is usually your happiness, your well-being, your physical, your mental health, and that has as an effect on everything else. It affects your ability to parent. If you are in a partnership, it affects your ability to be a partner, and it affects the family system as a whole.
Mhm. Very well. Thank you. How about time for your partner? How does someone make time for their partner,
Well,
especially when you have little kids running around?
yeah, something that also impacts the family system as a whole. When, like I said, you get to the end of the week or the end of the month and you realize you haven't had any time for your relationship, it starts to trickle down, and it starts to have effects on the family that are often not so desirable. So I think that it's really a priority. I think realistic goals are really important here. You may not be able to have date nights in the way that you used to, especially during something like coronavirus, where getting a sitter isn't even an option.
Mhm.
um, but I think that it's really important to sometimes just say that's okay. Redefine what it is to date your partner. It's okay to redefine those expectations, and set yourself up for success. I know for us, like, it is a minimum commitment of one night a week, like bare minimum. If we're both having the craziest week of our lives, that's really like the bare minimum that we're willing to go. And it's been it's made such a difference in our relationship. Hmm
It's so nice that you're practicing what you're preaching. It's very, very important.
yeah.
Absolutely. As therapists, we try to do that. Boundaries with children and with sleep. I think this is a really hard one, especially for babies who are teething and a lot of, moms who are already not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, I think boundaries to sleep are really challenging for a lot of families, but kind of going back to some of the other tips, making time for yourself, making time for your partner,
Mhm.
that this is kind of wrapped into all of those things, that in order to be able to do that, if your children are going to bed super late at 10, 11 p.m., it's really hard to make time for yourself. It's really hard to make time for your partner because, understandably so, you're tired when they go to bed. And that's the last thing you want to do is, stay up and watch a movie or cook a meal together. And so having boundaries around sleep, I think, is really important. And they have to be age appropriate boundaries. Obviously, if we're dealing with a newborn, that's a little bit of a different situation. But if we're dealing with an older baby or toddler or a young child, it's perfectly okay to have those boundaries around sleep, to have those boundaries around nap time, so that you can get some time for yourself in during the day, especially during coronavirus. Where you're home all day with your kids, and that's, like I said, when it comes to making time for yourself and making time for your partner, this is kind of wrapped into that. And having those boundaries is going to allow you that time for yourself and for your partner.
Yeah. I think just having boundaries in general, not rigid, but boundaries that are going to allow you to put yourself first are really, really important. But it's hard. Remember, these things, like, we can say them, it's hard to implement, but it's not unrealistic. It's not something that you can't implement into your life. So I think that's the one thing that moms and dads need to hear. It's possible. Control what you can. I like this one.
Yeah.
We teach a lot of the parents and a lot of the people that we work with, control what you can and don't what you can't.
Yeah, I think that's a big learning lesson for a lot of new parents, is that you
Mhm.
realize so much is out of your control. You
Mhm.
no longer have control, over how easily your kid sleeps or how long they sleep for or what their mood is like you said, if they're
Mhm.
teething or they're just having an off day. Like, that's all out of your control. And
Mhm.
so I know for myself and for a lot of the people that I work with, controlling what you can has made a really big difference. I think it's human nature for us to want to feel in control of certain things. I don't think that's a bad thing. And so I think whether it's, making time for yourself, like we were talking about, or doing one small thing for yourself during the day, even as something as simple as making your bed in the morning when you first get out of it so that your house feels a little bit tidier. It can be anything. But I think just controlling these really small things can actually help us in the long run and deal with some of the changes that parenthood can bring, especially for the new parents who maybe aren't quite used to that feeling of really being out of control.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like your
And
three G's for that. The
mhm.
last one, which is like one selfish goal that you have for yourself
Mhm.
during the day. I think
Mhm.
that's a really great, tangible, and small, achievable thing that we can do throughout our day. And like I said, it can be as simple as something as like taking a shower.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Oh
have to
yeah,
take a long time.
absolutely.
It doesn't have to cost money.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely. But I teach all of the moms that I work with of how to do the 3 Gs. And I tell them, implement it into your life and just see how it happens just for a week. And it's just so nice when, they're able to implement it, but they always get stuck at the goal. And they'll sit and they'll just like, well, what do you mean? Well, okay, I'll clean the closet. And I'm like, well, that's not really a selfish goal. What would you like to do? Do you want to go to Starbucks and grab an iced latte or something? She goes, oh my God, that'd be amazing. There you go. That's your goal. And I always say save it to the mid or later of the day, because then you have something to look forward to. Because if you wake up and you just do your goal, then you don't have much to look forward to. All right. And lastly, allowing your partner to help. This is a big one.
It is a big one. I think, especially for partners who tend to do things really differently.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, like, allowing my husband to fold the laundry is a big
Mm-hmm.
accomplishment of mine because he folds it differently than how I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that actually it was this aha moment I had of like, wow, it actually feels really great when you get to check things off of your list and someone that you love and that wants to care for you does those
Mm-hmm.
things. And I know
Mm-hmm.
how I feel when I'm allowed to do things for him and help him. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that he gets the same feeling in return. And I also know how it makes me feel, which is like less overwhelmed, less frustrated, less stressed, less tired. And going back to those other things that we've talked about, it also allows more time for yourself, allows more time for your partner. Hmm. And it's
Absolutely.
a really important piece, I think, to learning to co-parent and really be a team as parents, and kind of foster that part of your relationship, which doesn't
Hmm.
always come natural to people, of how do we do this? How do we be teammates? How do we co-parent? And
Hmm.
allowing someone in, allowing them to help, and also allowing yourself to ask for that help
Yes.
is huge. And
Yeah.
it feels uncomfortable a lot of the time to initially do it, but it's kind of like a muscle. You build that muscle and then it becomes like second nature.
Yeah. And this is mainly for moms. I mean, I don't think dads have a problem asking for help when it comes to the baby. It's mainly moms, the moms that are out there. Just don't be afraid to ask your husband for help because it's also their child. Yeah. They might do things different, but also I like to always point out, let's say they say, yeah, but if I have him change a diaper, he just does it. It's like poop everywhere. I'm like, okay, but you have to also understand that he has to learn how to do these things. And when you're learning, you make mistakes. It's okay. So if you never allow him to make the mistakes, he will not be able to learn, and you guys won't be able to be a team, and you may be teaching him things or him teaching you. So as long as something gets done, that's
Mhm.
all that really matters. If it wasn't done the way you want it to be done,
Yeah,
So
exactly. They're two different things.
this
And
really allows people to become a team, basically.
does. And I think, no, no. And I think also the older that my daughter has gotten, it's allowed me to see that it
Yeah.
has fostered flexibility within her. Because my husband and I do things really differently and we parent
Yeah.
really differently in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And I see, though, that she's a lot more adaptable because of that. It's not
Hmm.
just two people doing everything one way and has to be this
Yes.
way. And it's actually been a really great thing for her. And I didn't have that foresight when she was a baby. But now that she's a
Hmm.
little bit older, I do. And I see kind of what it's done for her. And
Yeah.
so I really just encourage anyone watching this who's struggling with that to just try it,
Yeah.
sit with the discomfort of asking for the help, and also sometimes the frustration that can come when it's not done the way that you want it to be done.
So I think what's so beautiful about this last one, and it's such an important point, is that it brings two people together. It allows them to build trust, and it allows the couple to provide their child with two different experiences, which gives the child a perception of things being done in two different ways and being able to adapt. So it's actually, in the long run, it's actually a very big learning experience for the baby and also you as a couple.
Mhm.
So very well. Thank you, Mihaly. This was wonderful. Is there any last finishing touches you'd like to leave us with?
I think just reiterating, be patient with yourself, give yourself grace. These are all learning lessons. They're not things to
Mhm.
be done all the time perfectly in every way. I think
Mhm.
we have to forgive ourselves as moms that we're learning too, and we make mistakes too, and that it's okay. And I just also reiterate, if you're struggling, to please reach out for help.
Yes. And at Hillside, I just posted yesterday that we will be offering therapy at $25. That's couples therapy, family therapy, individual therapy, therapy for children. So all of it will be $25 for the rest of the year. So really, guys, we're really trying our best to make sure to make it affordable and to provide you with all the help we can. There are several groups. Mihaly runs a very popular group for postpartum and for new moms, especially dealing with the anxiety and everything that's coming up right now. And it's all through Zoom, so you're safe in your home. Grab your cup of coffee, sit down, chat with Mihaly and the other moms. And this is also a really good way of you, doing number one, which is building a community so you don't feel alone. So
Mhm.
you can either follow us on Instagram and direct message us at it. So it's hillside_wellness, or you can call us at 424-261-9444.